Why, hello there. It's been a while. So, yeah, it's been a bit. I've still been reading pretty regularly. Those of you who follow me on Goodreads know that quite well. But I haven't really been reading anything that I really felt the need to share my thoughts on. Most of them were like books for me, or like, well, after recommending it in the last video, I realized I should probably actually read it. And I'd been meaning to for a while anyway, but I did read Borderlands, La Frontera, by Gloria Anzaldua. And that's a book where it's like, I really enjoyed it. And I mean, I have thoughts, but the book was written for a Chicano like audience and expressing that experience. And it's very well established as an influential text within feminist thought, philosophy, and like poetry and like fiction. And it's like, what am I? A white man, very, very pale white man, going to really add to that conversation? You know? So I decided not to. But today we are going to discuss a book. I finished it a while ago, back in November, I think. But I do have some thoughts they've just stuck with me. I thought about, I initially wasn't going to because again, it was like a book that clearly I'm not the intended audience for, and I feel like because I have mixed feelings about it, I think I wanted to make sure that I had them all collected well. And that book is Binti by Nnedi Okorafor. I apologize. I probably butchered the hell out of that. I do, whenever I read her last name, I do want to say Okafor because I was raised in a UConn college basketball household, and Emeka Okafor was the center of UConn's 2004 championship men's basketball team. A name that's just been implanted in my mind. So those of you that have watched the channel, no, I'm not super. I don't really care that much about spoilers generally. I actually kind of like them in certain cases. I think like there have been quite a few works that I've checked out because they've been spoiled for me in some sense. Like I went and saw the new Spider-Man film because certain aspects of the film were spoiled for me. I probably wouldn't have checked it out otherwise. I'm not a huge Marvel MCU fan, but I ended up watching it and going to see it because of that. There are other examples, but that's the most recent one that comes to mind. So for those of you that do really care about spoilers, not that this review is going to be particularly spoiler heavy, the narrative section might have a few. I will probably be discussing bits of the ending, but other than that, it's going to generally be pretty vague. But for those of you that absolutely want to go into this book fresh, without anything being, any major details being discussed, my overall thoughts are it's okay, but I have very mixed feelings about the book, but there's enough unique about it that I would recommend at least giving it a look. It's also only, not. I think it's literally 90 pages. You could read it in an afternoon if you really want to, if you really feel pressed enough. It's definitely worth a look, and it's not that much of a time commitment. So for those of you that aren't as spoiler averse, or who just want to stick around, because again, this video isn't going to contain, I don't think is going to contain particularly any spoilers. I'm going to be structuring this kind of as a compliment sandwich. So we're going to be discuss kind of the world building, characterization, narrative, and the prose of this work. But Before we do that, I'm just going to read the back of the book, so there's at least a general understanding of the structure, the plot structure.
She left her home for the stars, but found more adventure than she bargained for. A tense and intimate coming of age story in space. Her name is Binti, and she is the first of the Himba people ever to be offered a place at Unza University, the finest institution of higher learning in the galaxy. But to accept the offer will mean giving up her place in her family to travel between the stars among strangers who do not share her ways or respect her customs. Knowledge comes at a cost, one that Binti is willing to pay, but her journey will not be easy. The world she seeks to enter has long warred with the Medusa, an alien race that has become the stuff of nightmares. Unza University has wronged the Medusa, and Binti's stellar travel will bring her within their deadly reach. If Binti hopes to survive the legacy of a war not of her making, she will need both the gifts of her people and the wisdom enshrined within the university itself. But first, she has to make it there alive.
So, I'm going to start by discussing the prose. I quite like Okorafor's writing style. There's some really good descriptions. You really understand the Binti in particular, but I guess the Himba people more generally, is just connection to their soil, to the earth, and to the land that they originate from and where they live. And you also really get a sense of like her mental state. Yeah, just the general descriptions. There are some very horrifying bits in this, some very tense moments, and they're handled beautifully. Really well done. She's a good writer. She really strings you along, makes you want to keep going, even in the bits I found a bit slow. But before we get to that, I'm going to move on to the next section, and that is characterization. Characterization's a bit of a mixed bag. Binti, the titular character, she is described very well. You get a very good sense of who she is, her inner conflicts, and just everything, her mental state throughout the whole book. She is the point of view character. It's written in the third person, so not literally the point. Oh wait, actually wait. This is the problem of reviewing a book a couple months after. It is written in the first person. Oh god. Don't worry, I took notes for other things. It is written in the first person. So, Binti is written very well. She is characterized very well because the whole story is through her point of view. The only other character that I think gets fleshed out to any extent is the Medusa Akwu, and even then he's very archetypal. There's nothing particularly complex. I mean, he basically goes from being like a young hothead to getting a bit more of like an understanding and, thinking through things, maturing a bit, I guess. It's okay. All the other characters might as well not have names. Like that, they're not really fleshed out. Again, this is 90 pages, and a lot happens in the 90 pages, so I get that. But I wish there was a bit more fleshing out, particularly in the beginning. There are a few characters like who Binti becomes friends with on the ship on the way to Unza University, who don't really get fleshed out beyond, oh, they're Binti's friends. and their Kush, which is the dominant human ethnic group in the book. There's not a huge amount other than that, and they're not, yeah, their personalities aren't really fleshed out. Granted, I guess this is a minor spoiler, but it does happen like 10 pages in. They don't last that long. But I wish that beginning bit was fleshed out more, because I think it would have made the Medusa invading the ship have a lot more impact. Or I think there should have been less. And these characters should have maybe still had names, but, no real backstory, no details given about them. And just like, we're just vaguely told, oh, Binti, da, 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 on the ship. And then, oh no, everybody's dead except Binti. Um, because as it is, it's not enough to be satisfying, and yeah, it just needed to be fleshed out more, and that I think is leads us to the narrative, which again I think needed to be fleshed out more. This book deals with some very big themes around colonialism, and very specifically the taking of indigenous artifacts by colonial powers, and how it is dealt with is, to me, overly simplistic. And again, it's 90 pages. You only have so much room, and this theme is really only introduced within the last, or made explicit anyway, within the past, or not the past, the last like 40 pages, that last section of the book. So the book's really in 3 sections. There's the first, where Binti is going off to Umza University and dealing with kind of this existential stuff of being the first of her people to leave the planet, and dealing with like leaving their ancestral homeland, which is very important to them. Their connection to the earth is very important in this kind of internal struggle, as well as just kind of dealing with stuff from her family. And then the second bit, which is her basically, which is almost a horror novel level suspense, where she is hiding from these aliens that are trying to kill her. And it's that bit is the highlight of the book. I would say it's the reason to pick up this book. Well, it's not the reason. I'll get to what I think is the reason to pick up the book in the next section. But it is one of the highlights of the book is that section. It's really well done. Of the 3 parts, it's by far the best, at least narrative-wise, as far as narrative structure goes. And then the last part is her working with the Medusa to, get back this object, which is important to them. Yeah, it's just overly simplistic in its dealings with that theme, and it needed more space to breathe. I don't want to give away the ending, even, but the ending really frustrated me, because it seemed way too neat and tidy. Not that and I guess maybe her intent was to give kind of a hope of like an ideal way of dealing with these kind of things. That's what I suspect, but it just ended up, to me, just falling flat. But that brings us to the last section, which I think is the strongest point of the book, and why I will probably be checking out the rest of this trilogy. Oh, I haven't mentioned this. This is the first in a trilogy. The reason why I feel comfortable reviewing it on its own is because it was not originally intended to be a series, and it works as a standalone narrative. So anyway, I don't think I don't think my critique is unfair, basically. But world building. World building is very good. I am very invested in this world. Okorafor is the child of Nigerian immigrants, I believe, and so there's a lot of influence from different African traditions. And actually, the Himba people, we learn she mentions in the acknowledgement section, are a real tribal group. Tribe has a weird connotation. Ethnic group. I'll say ethnic group. Tribe is weird. Colonial connotation. An ethnic group in Namibia is a real ethnic group in Namibia. So I assume, though I have not done research into this, I assume that some of these traditions of Binti's people are taken from the actual Himba people. Although I haven't done research to verify that. But this world that she has created is unique in at least English language sci-fi, and I think is worth checking out, if nothing else, for that. And that is my loosey-goosey review of Binti by Nnedi Okorafor. I again apologize if I butchered your name. Yeah, so overall it was kind of a mixed bag, but it's short, and I think the things it does well are good enough where I think it would be worth checking out. I think going forward in the future for this channel, I did start a full-time job recently, and I am going to be working on my thesis in this upcoming semester, which starts as of recording in like a week and a half, I think. But so I think at least until I'm done with my thesis, uploads are probably going to be a bit sporadic, and the videos will probably be of this nature. Yeah, I'm gonna try to keep up, at least trying to do one a month, if not more. Obviously, the ideal is to do more than one a month, but if you like what you saw, give the video a like. If you really liked it, give me a subscribe. And have you read Binti? What did you think of it? Is the rest of the series worth checking out? I would like to know that, because I am very intrigued by the world building in this. Yeah, but my name's Will. This has been Well to Read, and see you next time.